Coming up is part 1 of the course from MakeThatTrack.com. As a member of our website, you get access to all the links, presets, samples and loops, and also project files, including MIDI, for all the tutorials on the site. Enjoy this free tutorial and be sure to check us out at MakeThatTrack.com.
Hey guys, welcome to part 1 of our Ableton Disco House tutorial. In this video we're just going to be setting up our basic drum rhythms, drum patterns and drum beats. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a drum rack, which is going to allow us to use MIDI in order to create some drum patterns. So right here I just have an empty MIDI track, and to create one all you have to do is right click and choose Insert MIDI Track, and we'll insert one for you. Now in order to get a drum rack in here, we need to go over here on the left to Instruments, and then just drag Drum Rack in. And it's going to create the device down here in the bottom. And what this is just a bunch of pads that we can assign different audio clips to. And then we can use this to play the kit on our MIDI keyboard, or we can use it to create patterns in MIDI with a MIDI clip. So before we do that, first let's set up a couple things in our project. First is the tempo. I've set it to 118, and in order to do this, all you have to do is click and drag upwards or downwards. You can set the tempo like that, or you can click and type in the tempo. Okay, the next thing we're going to want to do is set up a custom folder so that we can use our samples. And to do this, just go in the bottom left here and choose Add Folder. Then it's going to bring up a box for you to browse and add a folder for your samples. Now the samples we're going to be using for this I have located in the current project folder. So I'm going to go over there, I'm going to open up the samples folder, and then go into drums. Okay, so we're going to load in a few samples here into our drum rack. So first I'm going to grab 2 different kick samples, kick low, kick high. And we're going to get a snare, get a snap, a clap, and that should do it. So once we have our audio clips in here, we can click on the play button for each clip in order to play them. Another thing we can do is press the corresponding note on a MIDI keyboard or MIDI controller in order to play those clips. As you can see, each pad is set to a different note. So if I pressed F1, it would play this pad, or kick low is set to C1. So if I press C1, I'd be able to play my kick. But also what we can do is we can start creating a pattern inside of a MIDI clip. So in order to get a MIDI clip in here, we're going to select an area. We're going to right click and choose Insert MIDI Clip. It's going to pop open the clip for us, and then we can just double click on this, and now we have the MIDI clip view. So as you can see on the left, it's got all of our audio set to different keys, and in order to start getting notes in here, all we have to do is double click wherever we want to create a note. So I'm just going to create our kick pattern here. Okay, that's a little fast. So we're just going to want one every beat. So I can hold Control or Command and then click and drag in order to copy this note. Copy it over. Okay, and then I can select all of these and then Control or Command and drag upwards. And now I have it on both of my kicks. Okay, and now I'm going to write in my snare, so we're going to want that every other beat. Okay, and the same for our snaps and our claps. The claps come in a little bit late. And if we go into our drum rack, we can actually take a look at the file. If I double click on this pad, it's going to open up the sound here. And we can see that it doesn't actually start where the clap is. It's got a little bit of like a pre-sound here. So what we're going to do is go back into the clip. And we're going to select both of these, and then we're going to hold Alt or Option while dragging in order to bypass the grid. I'm just going to drag it over a little bit. Now they should be hitting on time. Okay, now that we have our basic pattern in here, we can drag this clip out to repeat it. And also what we can do is go back into the drum rack and adjust some volumes. So if I click on any of these pads, the file will open up here, and we have a bunch of controls here. And if we want to adjust the volume, that's going to be on the right. So I'm just going to go and turn our snare down a little bit. And our snaps. Maybe turn the claps up a little bit. Okay, now what I want to do is pan the snaps on the left and the claps on the right. So we have our panning knob right next to the volume. I can just make this go to the left. And I can make the claps go to the right. Now that we've panned it, we can more easily hear the claps, and we can see or hear that they're still coming in a little bit late. So let's go ahead and adjust those a little further. Okay, right about there is good. Okay, now we can maybe turn the claps back down now that they're more noticeable. Another thing I want to do is remove some of the low frequencies from our high kick sample, because we don't want two kick samples to have low end frequencies, because they're going to fight for it and it's going to get muddy in our mix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Audio Effects, and I'm going to get an EQ8, and I'm going to drag it down here once I have the kick highlighted, just right into here. And as you can see, if I click on something else, that EQ disappears. So it's only affecting our kick high. In order to do that, we want to make sure that it's actually in the drum rack. So if I dragged it over here, it would be affecting everything. So if I just make sure it's within the drum rack with the kick high file, it's going to only affect that sound. Okay, so now we can just remove some frequencies from the low end. I'm going to drag this up to maybe 450. Okay, now we can listen to the before and after. So it's just tightening up that low end. Okay, now that we have our basic drum beat in here, let's get some more samples. And we're going to be working with some audio samples now, just without a MIDI drum rack. So let's go back into our samples folder, and we're going to get closed hat 1. Just drag that in. I'm just going to adjust the volume over here on the right. Okay, now if we double click on this, we can bring up the audio clip view, and we want to make sure that we can loop this sample. So if I just try to drag this out right now as it is, it's not going to let me, and that's because I don't have loop enabled within the clip view. So if I just click this, it's going to enable loop, and now I can drag it out. Okay, let's just give ourselves 8 bars. All right, now let's get some more loops and samples in here. So let's get a closed hat 2, bring that in. So this is going to be hitting on the upbeat. Okay, now let's work with an audio one shot. So this isn't going to be a loop, it's just going to be one sample that we're going to have to duplicate and copy on our own. So let's grab sizzle hats. I've called them sizzle hats because they have a nice sizzly high-end sound to them. take a listen to that. Okay. So now if I just click on them and press Control or Command and D, it's going to duplicate those. Then I can select all 4 of them and do it again and again. Okay. Okay, so that's just filling out our high end. Okay, so now let's get a shaker in here. So I'm going to go in here and grab shaker 1. Okay, so as you can see, as we layer more and more different types of rhythms over top of each other, our drum beat's getting a little bit more interesting, and it's getting a little bit more full each time. Okay, so now let's just grab 2 samples that we're going to be using a little bit less often within our drum beat. So I'm going to grab OP hat, stands for open hat. And we're going to have this just at the beginning of every 4 or 8 bars. Okay, that's just going to add a little bit of variation to the first beat of every 4 bars. We're going to do the same thing with a crash. So let's grab our crash and drag it in. Okay, that's going to do it for our basic drum beat. In the next video, we're going to be setting up our instruments.
We hope you've enjoyed part 1 of this course. To continue, please go to the website and select a membership to suit your needs. Welcome to MakeThatTrack.com. At Make That Track, we provide everything you need to make your favourite style of music from start to finish. Our Getting Started series will show a complete beginner where to start and what they need to do to start making music out of the box. Once the basics are grasped, you can learn how to make the genre of your choice with everything that you need in the process. Want to know how to make that elusive sound from your favourite producer's tracks? Check out our How to Make That Sound tutorials. We take the guesswork out and show you exactly what you need to do to get that sound within a few simple steps. With tips on arrangement, mixing, mastering and effects, you'll have everything you need to prepare your tracks to send to a record label and to play in the clubs. Get everything you need to make the music you love today.